Hey, I was really wondering if I should even make a video about this. Lots of other people are going to. Most of what I'm going to say has been said by others, but I figured if I was ever going to talk about it, it would be best to do it right now. And that obviously is regarding this recent development with Osama bin Laden being killed, or at least claimed to have been killed. I say I first saw people were putting on Facebook that Obama was going to make an announcement late that night. Announcement late at night is usually not a good thing. I was thinking maybe we were going to send ground troops into Libya because earlier that day there had been stories about the UN embassies being, mobbed or whatever in Libya. I mean, it seemed like a logical next step in their war against Gaddafi. And then I was worried that maybe he was going to declare martial law or something, although it wouldn't be clear why. And then, of course, a little while before he came on, I wasn't able to watch it because I was at work, but, people said that Osama died. Now, or had been killed, and I heard it was sketchy at first, and it's still kind of sketchy, and honestly, I'm going to have to reserve judgment about what happened for probably a couple of years until some good investigative journalist like Seymour Hersh or somebody goes and interviews all the principals and really figures out. I'd really like to know what he's been doing these last 10 years, assuming that this is legitimate, which very well could be. I don't know. But a couple things. One, I didn't feel really happy about it. I have no reason to believe that he wasn't responsible for 9/11, and certainly, for sure, he was responsible for other mass murders. He said so himself, whatever. But I don't see what happened as being justice. Now, I do think you could say it is vengeance, and vengeance is sometimes understandable, if not always condonable. I can understand, and if there's somebody who was wronged by him, who knows somebody who was injured or killed, I think it's understandable that they would feel happy about this. And maybe it's not the most enlightened emotion, but it's understandable. And but one thing here is I even wonder about the vengeance, though, because the people who killed him almost certainly did not suffer anything at his hands. And it's impossible to separate or to discern the fact that the politicians who ordered this, Obama especially, but the government in general, were well aware that doing this would help them very much. Now, that's not to say that they wouldn't have done it anyway. It's not to say that's their only motivation, but it's something that it's impossible to claim that they don't. That doesn't enter into the calculation. So this would be somewhat akin to if somebody murdered a family member of mine brutally. Then I would have as much reason to hate them as anybody whose family member was killed by the actions of Osama. Even more possibly, because as far as I'm aware, Osama didn't directly kill anybody. He just had others do it, which is still a crime. But now imagine then if the district attorney or whatever led a charge and captured this person, but then just spent all their time in press conferences gloating over it. Clearly, they wanted the spotlight and had less to do with any kind of concept of justice, and that was just an excuse for their own self-aggrandizement. And that's clearly in play here. You can't say that that's the only thing happening, but it's clearly part. I think it would have been much better if he had been put on trial. Now, like I said, I don't know what happened, so I don't even know if that was feasible at all. And even with a really good investigative journalist, this is all going to be coming from the government side of the story, so we may never know. And of course, the conspiracy theorists are going to have a field day. I mean, when my coworkers came into work, one of them's not even American. He's from the UK. He's only been here like a week. And the very first thing he says, they buried him at sea already after a week or a day. I've heard different stories already. Well, some people say this happened like a week ago. Some people said it happened yesterday. I don't know. It makes sense to bury him at sea eventually, because then there's no monument and there's no shrine, there's no place for people to go. That makes a lot of sense. It makes less sense to do it before you announce that he's dead and you really allow for verification. Now, maybe it will come out that was allowed to some extent, but so far it hasn't been. And so, I mean, it's going to be really easy to claim that the whole thing is fake. Because, I mean, I could say I have Hitler's body in my basement, and if you ask for proof, if I just said, well, I have DNA evidence that proves it. DNA evidence might prove it, but all you have is my say-so that there's even such evidence. That's just it's just me alleging that. It doesn't really prove anything. So, and apparently the photo that's circulating is fake. Not that the government faked it, somebody just faked it, which has happened before. I mean, it's easy to Photoshop, so I don't know. Now, be that moving on a little bit, what do I think? What do I notice in people's reactions? One, not surprised. Obama supporters basically feel vindicated about him in every way. I don't see how that's possible. Even accepting that this is the case, we're talking about this took what, 10 years, trillions of dollars, many thousands of lives lost, or American lives, foreign lives. The cost is astronomical. Not just in money, but in all those material death, all that ill will, more terrorists that we've created, or at least animosity we've generated. I don't know how that can be really viewed as successful. It's like an abysmal failure of it's. I mean, you have the most powerful state in the history of the world trying to kill one man. It should have happened a long time ago. You'd think. This is like way worse odds than David versus Goliath, and it's not a very worthwhile story if eventually Goliath wins at the end. It's just like, well, duh, of course. And it's just weird because now all of a sudden killing Gaddafi's children is okay. All those drone strikes, just that doesn't matter. And I've even seen this somehow makes Obamacare retroactively just. It's just weird. What's even more bizarre are the Republicans who actually I don't know how this is even possible. I mean, okay, Obama, if this is true, then Obama can't take that much credit because it's mostly the military, whoever the intelligence agencies were who figured out the lead. They're the people who are the most who deserve the most credit, if any credit is due. And Obama deserves a little bit because he is, ultimately in charge. I don't know how Bush can get any, and yet a lot of my friends were posting videos of Bush giving his 9/11 speech. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, look, this happened on the anniversary of Mission Accomplished," and they were waving the Mission Accomplished sign, and just that seems incredibly weird to me. How? I mean, I would say that Obama was a failure. It took him 3 years, thousands of deaths, probably what, $1 trillion, something like that. Bankrupting the entire country. I'd say that's a failure on his part. It's even worse failure for Bush because he doesn't even have this token to come out. And the basis of the failure, Okay, well, I'm not going to get into that, but what do I think this means? I don't think this is all bad because one thing I did notice is a lot of people who want the wars to end, who want the civil liberties back, who want the police state to be, abolished, are already calling for that. They're saying, okay, where's our peace dividend? We got them. This would be the perfect time, by the way, to end the wars. If we had ended the wars a week ago, it would have looked like we were turning our tails and running. They wouldn't be able to save face, and it would look really horrible. If today Obama came out and said, we've done it, we're coming home, he would look like a winner. I know it's kind of irrational, but it would play really well. And if he did that, he could actually, if he has an amazing opportunity here, whether it's a fake opportunity or not. The opportunity is real. But well, anyway, so a lot of people are actually calling for that. I remember one person saying justice won't be done until the Patriot Act is revoked, and people are calling for that. Now, I'm not saying that suddenly that's all going to happen. But I think that there's suddenly more impetus for it. More impetus, not an overwhelming amount, but more. I do think that this helps Obama's chances of re-election. However, I think as an incumbent he had excellent odds anyway, and this is still 2 years before, so if the economy goes really bad or stays bad, it's going to wear. I mean, the other thing, as I noted before, it really boosts his ambiance with his supporters, but not with his opponents. Don't. I mean, they're just crediting Bush, or they'll credit the military. They'll say it's all the military. No Republican who hates Obama is not going to vote for him. It's not going to happen. And even among his base, he lost support among his base. This will help some of his base, but those protesters who are going out saying he's evil and for continuing the war, is the ones who are principled enough to already have come out and said that. I'm going to guess that most of them are principled enough to not suddenly change their mind. Maybe a few of them will, for the time being. So, in the long run, I don't think that this changes all that much, because I think he would have probably been reelected anyway. And this is so far from the election that it may not even matter that much in the first place. I wanted to talk more about Afghanistan. People seem to think that, okay, the war in Afghanistan is really weird. If you ask people what it's about, I've heard so many different motivations, none of which are very good, none of which I think are sufficient to it's for opium, it's for an oil pipeline, it's to build bases for a war against Iran, or it's to intimidate China, or it's to nation build, it's to destroy a haven for terrorism, it's to find bin Laden, it's to it's to help the military industrial, it's just a scam to make money, at the public expense, and I think all of those explanations are, maybe a little plausible, but none of them in and of themselves, is enough to explain it. And you put all these weak justifications together, that's still not a good reason to go to war. But if you just if you then take all these really bad reasons and you just wrap them in an American flag, then suddenly it's something that you're able to sell as plausible. Now, the Osama angle on that is gone now, supposedly. I think that it's and also, I mean, people were making comments like, well, we've been looking for him this whole time. Again, I'd like to see I want to wait for the book to come out, if it ever can. It's obvious that the majority of the military action in Afghanistan had either nothing or almost nothing to do with finding bin Laden, or even Al-Qaeda generally. Most of the troops there, they're like directing traffic and doing search and destroy, and I mean, they're not going around asking where's Osama. They're not doing that, most of them. Now, was there some element of the military that was? I don't know, probably, but then we're coming to this situation where many trillions of dollars were spent, but only a tiny fraction of that was towards the ends that everybody assumed were the most important. Presumably, again, we don't know. I don't know what the breakdown of the spending is, but clearly you don't need, I don't know how many troops, tens of thousands of troops to search for one man. It's an extraordinarily huge waste of money. So clearly there are other reasons, other ends being pursued, and what all they are, is a matter of debate and speculation. So I don't know. I kind of feel ambivalent about the whole thing. Not ambivalent. It's mostly underwhelming to me, I guess. I mean, as soon as I found out he wasn't declaring martial law or anything, I almost went back to sleep because I was like, okay, whatever.